My mother claimed something bit her a week ago. She complained about difficulty breathing and said that she couldn't feel her left side from the midsection down. As evidence, she showed us her left thigh. Sure enough, there was a red, inflamed patch of flesh. It looked like the aftermath of a mosquito bite, except several times larger. We thought a spider must have got her while she slept, but since nearly a week had already passed and we weren't exactly rich, we decided against seeing a doctor. We couldn't afford paying a medical bill for something that would probably clear up in a few days, but we were sure it would clear up. I mean, it was only a bug bite after all. It was our mistake. When we awoke today, Mother was crying. She said that the numb sensation of her side had indeed gone, but it had only been replaced by a burning anguish. Her breath hitched and was obviously labored. We inspected her thigh and were startled to find that the large mosquito bite mark had erupted across her side. A single bite mark had turned into several sickly inflamed mounds that peeled and erupted pus. She claimed it burned, and we certainly believed her. It was time to consult the doctor. My father told us he would drive her to the nearest neighborhood clinic. For my part, I departed from my day's summer session classes. My mother's frightening condition danced somewhere in the back of my mind for the rest of the day, but I didn't dwell on it. Summer classes were coming to an end, final exams were in a few days, friends were planning a trip to the beach, and I had a small pain in my breaths that nagged me. I hope I wasn't catching a cold. I was driving back home when I got the call. It was my father. He was in hysterics. Apparently the doctor at the clinic had taken one look at my mother's condition and urged her to head to the emergency room. So my father and mother had gone and waited a little more. Finally, my mother was allowed to see a doctor. That's where it all went downhill. He took one look at her and left the room. My father and mother were left in that room, confused, when the nurses entered. Some drew blood from my heaving mother, others ushered my father out of the room, blowing aside his questions and asking him to wait in the waiting area. He did, but while he waited, he had time to see a dozen police officers rush into the hospital, past the waiting area, and into the direction of the room that held my mother. He told me this last part in a choking sob. He heard gunshots. That's when I heard him scream. That made me jump in my car seat, my hands taut and white against the steering wheel and my eyes bulging. I realized I wasn't breathing. On the other end of the line, I heard something clatter. It was probably the phone, hitting the floor. Then there were arguing, yelling voices, authoritative voices. There was one weeping voice. My father. It was the only time I've ever heard him cry like that, blubbering something out, I'll be honest. I was disgusted. I wasn't used to such a weak father. I was used to the man of steel my old man I've come to represent. I guess I was just confused. When I heard the gunshots on the other end, I guess it just didn't seem real. I turned off my cell phone and continued driving home. I was numb, confused, and disbelieving. I got home, only by then it wasn't really home anymore. I found the block closed off, police cars cordoned off the streets. People in biohazard suits were coming in and out of my house in a befuddled state. I thought it looked kind of like something out of the movies Wreck or Quarantine. It seemed pretty funny, to be honest. It was really funny. Until I saw them wheel out a body under a tarp and realized that from the single exposed shoe that it was my younger brother. I drove on then. I drove until I was out of town, far out of town. I realized that then it was a stupid idea to keep driving. Whatever was going on, I had escaped out of sheer luck. They tried to put up a net around us, but I'd only escaped because of my college schedule. So what is it? I've seen enough scary movies to guess I'm infected, but who the fuck knows with what? My lungs are slowly burning, and there's a strange bulge on my back. I haven't checked it yet, but I'd bet everything in my pockets, which comes out to about $25, that it's a red mark. A red mark that resembles a large mosquito bite. What is it? Am I gonna die? Well, it was serious enough that they offed my mom and dad, and even my little bro. Whatever I've got, I figure it must be some serious shit. I wonder what it takes to infect others. A cough, a touch, a bite. I'll find out tomorrow. I walked until I can hitch a ride, then I walked some more. I stopped at a motel after dark and paid in cash. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. I just kept seeing that shoe sticking out from under that tarp, that shoe. So I opened my laptop and decided to type this out instead. They took everything from me. I am going to die. They didn't have to do what they did. They could have just told us we were a danger to others. They didn't have to shoot my mother and my father. I'm going to take as much as I can before I go. Tomorrow, I'll spend the day shaking hands, going into convenience stores and touching the food, maybe coughing on it. I'll lick the public water fountains. I'll do whatever it takes to bring you with me. So, tomorrow, please, shake my hand. If someone bites you, don't worry about it. It's nothing. It surely can't be worse than a bug bite.